What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Rube.
Welcome to Couch in the Rube, presented as always by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis. If you're like me and you have a sewer project going on outside your house starting at 7 a.m. every morning, Pure Options is here for you. Help you get back to sleep, reduce the noise, headache, whatever it is, help you relax and just ease into your day or put you to bed at night, whatever it might be. To be your best self, go to pureoptions.com. You can join their Pure Perks loyalty program. Download the app. Makes it really easy, right at your fingertips. I'm telling you, you can have your Pure Options experience tailored just for you with the Pure Perks loyalty program. And our Monday afternoon show brought to you by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels. Like Stringer Bell once said something about nobody remembers a 40-degree day. That's BS. Like it's 48 degrees today. And this is when Muskox shines. You put the coat away, you don't even need it. You walk around looking good, looking confident, looking warm. Everybody else is trying to figure out what to do in that in-between weather. You've got a Muskox flannel on. This is your time. Your time to look great. You can look your very best self like Jason and I do. I mean, two hideous men who somehow look decent enough to still be married and keep the significant others in our lives happy by wearing Muskox flannels. GoMuskox.com is the website to see their latest offerings, and use the promo code FIXITINPOST, all one word, FIXITINPOST, where Couch and the Rube listeners get $15 off their flannel purchase. Jason, how you doing, brother?
I'm not talking about Michigan.
Hey, what's up, man? How are you? I got to say, I wasn't using the Muskox. When I feel this weather, I'm like, T-shirt. I'm ready for it. All that terrible-ass cold weather, I'm like, no, let's go.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Cut off sleeves.
It's pretty nice.
45-degree weather. Let's go.
It's pretty nice.
I'm ready for this good weather. Enough.
We are going to talk about Michigan today.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Something happened Friday night that was, I think, a lot of Michigan State fans were excited about. I have to say our Michigan fan listening audience, I think, will be less today than usual. Because don't a lot of Michigan fans that like they hate listening. Like if Michigan had won that game Friday,
yeah,
this would have been a heavy Michigan listening.
1,000%.
Yes.
Yes.
It goes. Yeah.
That is true. Michigan fans love to when Michigan State fans agonize over a loss, especially to a Michigan team.
And I'm sure it's vice versa. I'm sure there are places that have a large Michigan audience where when they suffer, Michigan State fans listen. I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just speaking personally. I couldn't imagine sitting through that. Like, I understand if you want to sit there and listen after a football loss for Michigan, but after a basketball one? Really? Are Michigan fans really that? Or they just move on?
So, yeah, no, that's a good question.
Like, I don't know if I'd want to just tune in. I understand listening to people's misery is kind of fun for some, but I don't know.
I did listen to an Illinois basketball podcast after the Michigan State game just to see what their takes were.
Right.
Like where they were, I
check out
curious.
the opening segments, see what's happening. Yeah, I can understand that.
I was curious about that.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of Michigan State basketball to get into. Got some other stuff. I think it'll be a good show. I always worry about these shows when one major event happens and a lot of takes are on the same thing. But I think I put it together so it'll be tolerable. And that's really all you can ever ask of this show. If you have a Muskox flannel on and some Pure Options in your system, this show gets tolerable. And then,
But it's more tolerable after a win. It's 100%. When over a loss, and it's in Tom Izzo's ass, fire Tom Izzo. It's like,
Yeah. Like even Matt C. is overly positive today. Like Matt C. is on a Pure Options kick. Yeah, he's just feeling good.
I'm so proud of him. He's all grown up now,
Yeah, it's incredible.
Actually enjoying life.
It's incredible.
Get him on that Pure Options,
Are we ready to dig into to our takes?
Go ahead, buddy. Let's go.
All right.
Let's get into the excitement. Final Four bound.
So
Forget those past games.
I do think you can see a path now to how MSU becomes elite. They're not there yet. And I think what's interesting about them is we've seen the growth during the season from being a good team or an intriguing team to a good team to a really good team to a team that's capable of pulling off what they just did in three games in 7 days. Beating Illinois on the road, beating Purdue at home, winning at Michigan. Those first two teams, they seem to have taken their souls because they continue to lose. But the thing that the next and what we've seen in that growth is Jase Richardson, obviously, right? He all of a sudden now they have a guy. They have a dude that they can lean into. Whether he can do that night in and night out, I don't know. But he sounds up to it. When you do it on that stage, when they need you to do it, when nobody else seemed up to it at the beginning, they were really looking for you, it is a positive sign for Michigan State. He has gotten through whatever freshman wall was there. He's played his best basketball recently. He's certainly a guy who is becoming the focal point of scouting reports. You could see that how Michigan guarded him. And so and he still had a career day. Like, that's all positive stuff. And I think this is a career day more than the Oregon game because of where it happened, how it happened, and how badly MSU needed it. No, they needed it against Oregon too, but that was at home. Cohen Carr, we've seen the growth throughout the season and the impact he has on a game and did the other day. Trey Holloman, obviously, is had big moments at times throughout the season, but, probably his biggest second half flurry of points of his career. I know he's had 5 threes in a game and all that, but that was a huge swing. So you've seen all these things sort of develop. And there are 2 pieces left that give this team a chance. And they're really good already, right? This is a team right now that you look, some people have them as a 3 seed, a 2 seed, a legitimate chance to win a Big Ten title. Probably will win a Big Ten title if they can beat either Maryland or Wisconsin. No picnic. Like the Maryland game, I don't think they're going to win it. I just don't. I think they're more likely to beat Wisconsin, as good as Wisconsin's been at home next Sunday. But if they win one of those games, I think there's a really good chance they win the Big Ten title outright. If they lose both of them, there's a pretty good chance they split it with 5 losses with somebody else. But
Maryland's a must-win.
It's not a must-win, but it would help. No, because I think if they lose to Maryland and beat Wisconsin, they're still going to win it outright, I think. So, but they got to win one of those 2. But to get to, it's Jaden Akins, it's Xavier Booker. There are still room to grow within this season. And that's what gives them a chance. It's mostly Akins. But you do see it in Booker. And I asked Izzo about this during his press conference Monday about Booker. And he talked a lot about Akins and those 2 guys being the guys who keep him up at night. Getting Akins out of this slump. Because Akins has played incredibly well defensively, and I think people are recognizing that. He has stayed with it and done some good things offensively late in games. He just can't shoot right now. He just can't hit a shot. Guy who once made 42% of his threes in a season cannot hit a 3. And that's a mental thing, right? Booker is a guy who you can only use at certain times in certain matchups, but came in the Illinois game and hit a mammoth 3. And then maybe even a bigger 3 against Michigan on the road in the first half when things were getting away from Michigan State. And the fact that he stayed engaged enough to hit those shots and he has that mentality, and despite not playing at all in the second half, now we'll see how he continues to react. He apparently reached out to the coaches and asked them to put him on the scout team the other day. So he's still engaged. He wants to be part of this because he knows the scout team means more time in practice, right? That's a really good sign. Those 2 guys, and I'm not saying Xavier Booker becoming a star. I'm saying becoming a guy who continues to hit those shots, has a little bit more impact, and then a guy like Jaden Akins breaking out of his shooting slump at some point, I think would take this team to the point where you'd seriously have to consider them in contention against anybody. Now, there may be a couple teams out there, Duke for 1, Auburn for 2, that may just be better than Michigan State, and it would take the perfect night to do it. But outside of those 2 teams, I think Michigan State is Jaden Akins breaking out of his slump away from being as good as anybody in the country.
But is that easier said than done?
100%. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and it may not. And I think, and the other thing that's going to be important for this team and the fan base to some degree is not to overreact when they lose at Maryland on Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't change doesn't change what they just did. It was interesting. What's his nuts? Jim
Comparoni.
Purdue. Matt Painter. Talked about that with the Indiana fan base being, it's all or nothing. It's this recruits Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan, or they're the complete ass.
That's why you get paid, Matt Painter. That's why you make millions of dollars.
100%. But
deal with it. What is this? I don't understand why we can't sit there after a certain stretch of bad performances, sit there and critique this team, and you're not off the.
Hold on.
You're not on the bandwagon.
He was talking about Indiana's fan base. He's the Purdue coach. He was just talking about. Okay, that's fine. But if to me, he's right in this sense. If you want to have your opinion be taken seriously, be able to judge what is right. Again, this is a little off track, but I'm just saying.
Not everybody can spin zone like you and tell me about Xavier Booker and all he needs to do, and he wants to be on the scout team. Like, I get it. You're trying to spin it to where it's like we have some sort of hope, but I think that most people that have watched basketball that are Michigan State fans can see that there's some disconnect with Booker, and it's okay. But you can critique it after you have a couple days in between of these games, right? That's why these guys are all making this money. But so we can critique in between games.
The same critiques were happening before these guys made the money. The fan has not changed in that realm. It has never been a strength to be able.
What would Matt Painter like us to do? Like us fans, to sit there and just not stay silent, not talk about the games.
No, be rational. Talk about what happened.
There are rational people out there.
100%.
We have to pay attention to the 1% that are
100%.
idiots and say the most off the wall shit, and then we have to make it a narrative, and then it becomes a thing that 1% of people are saying when 99% of the people are watching basketball go, I didn't like the way they played tonight. We don't focus on those.
You and Matt Painter just said the same thing.
Okay.
And the only thing, his point was Indiana has a little bit, I think, larger fan base of the too hard on their own guys, and that's part of their problem as a program.
But you have to deal with those. I mean, you have to learn how to deal with that 1%, though, if you want to make that kind of money, because those are the kind of people that watch and go to the games, and they're the loudest people.
So my point with the growth point is this. Michigan State's team has grown throughout the season. We have seen it, and it is continued with Jase Richardson, with Cohen Carr, with a number of players. We've seen it, what Jackson Kohler did at Illinois in a huge moment, right? Mm-hmm. My point is there is still room for growth in this team, and right now they're really good. They're probably going to win a Big Ten title where they are at without further growth. And I still think there is more room to grow, and that's part of what makes this team dangerous. Now, we saw it again at Michigan. Their greatest strength is they have this spurt ability where they wear you down, and at some point they get hot for 8-10 points, and then they hang on to leads because you're tired late and they're not. And they're going at it with confidence. And they have, there have been some times where they've had some iffy point guard play, especially from Jeremy Fears. But what they have not had is once they make that run, they have not had this, they've held on to it. They've kept it up. They've kept
because
their
of their defense. It's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's like Izzo said, he doesn't, it's hard for opposing teams to game plan for Michigan State when they have no idea who that second scorer is going to be. We kind of know what Jase is going to do, but do you trust Trey Holloman to score 18 as the number 2 leading scorer? I don't know.
Well, that's
where Jaden Akins comes in. 1 for 6 from 3. Yeah. If the 3 isn't working, Jaden, maybe just try two 3-pointers or something. I don't know. It's really frustrating for Jaden. I can totally understand where he's coming from because he wants to be the guy, and sometimes it's just not going to work, and it has to be frustrating. Especially you're watching Trey Holloman do those things that Jaden Akins wants to do.
Yeah.
But that's why I feel it's just so hard to jump on board with some of these performances from some of these guys. You're like, man, oh man, if we get into March and some of these guys dip out, I know Jackson Kohler was in foul trouble, but man, oh man, to get only 2 points out of him, it's just tough.
Well, yeah, not every day is going to be a scoring day for him. But you're right. If you could count on like 8 to 10 from him, it would make a difference.
Right.
And Holloman
Fiddler disappears.
Holloman's been pretty consistent lately. I think he's been really, really good offensively. Even when he only had 7 the other day, they were allowed 7. Like you remembered all 7, right? There were big points in the Purdue game, and I think he's become somebody you can count on. But you're right. You're right about Akins. Like I think if Akins does not find, and from what I understand, he has struggled with this too. This is not what he wanted his senior year to look like down the stretch. Mm-hmm. He wanted to be the guy. I think he's 100% great with what's happening with Jase Richardson, but he'd like to at least be Robin to Batman. You know what I mean? Like he'd like to be the other guy, and I think he has that in him. And I do wonder how much, like if Jase Richardson had been the player he's become right away, like you knew he was your guy, in other words, and going into the year, a guy like Jaden Akins didn't think of himself as needing to be the guy. Thought of himself in a different realm. If he would have never put the pressure on himself that created this slump, because I think that's a little bit what's happened. At some point, I'm going to sit down with Akins because I think he's an interesting case because he's been very good defensively. He has not let it sink the rest of his performances, his shooting, which a lot of guys do, which is a mature sign of things. And he's going to be the senior on a team that resurrected this program and probably won a Big Ten title, and he's going to get a lot of credit for that in some realm. But he's not going to be remembered as the guy on this team. And I think that's...
And that can be okay. It can be a guy 100%. That can sit there and contributes to a Big Ten championship winning team, hopefully a Final Four, And you can still be a great player.
And it's possible he breaks out of it and has a nice run. I mean, it was about this time, 10 years ago that Travis Trice all of a sudden became something totally different than we'd seen, And there are historical things you can draw on. It's just unlikely. It's more likely you wind up being Chris Hill, who had that slump and never broke out of it, right? It's just, you can be one or the other. I still do think this team is going to lose another game. I think it'll be at Maryland. And the other thing I wanted to bring up in this bit is I wrote, and I wanted to ask you this. I wrote that I couldn't think of and I couldn't find another stretch of 3 games over 7 days in the regular season in Izzo's tenure that were more impressive for how they played, what they accomplished, what they had to overcome, where they played, all that stuff. And the one instance that was brought up to me that was probably on par with it, and I wondered which of these two ranked, where you ranked these two, was in 2021, the COVID year. You remember they were like going nowhere. They were going to miss the tournament entirely and break Izzo's streak. Yep. And Aaron Henry has that stretch of like 3 games over 5 days. They were playing games one after another, empty gyms, where they beat Ohio State, Illinois, and Michigan. And I think that was the 3 teams. And 2 of those teams are really highly ranked. Like, nobody saw those wins coming at all. And that propelled them to get a tourney bid to keep the streak alive that is so important to Izzo. This particular stretch gave them a real likely shot at a Big Ten title that I think is the most meaningful Big Ten title for Izzo, or will be, since the 98, since his first one. So this one stacks up with anything, I think. I'm just wondering, which do you think in your head is bigger, and are they on par with each other?
Yeah, and honestly, it could have been way worse if they didn't come back against Oregon, right? If they didn't have that miraculous second half against Oregon, man, that would have been deep depression, because that gave us some sort of hope. But, man, the biggest Big Ten championship since his first one.
No, but I'm wondering, do you think this is a bigger 3-game stretch than the one in 2021? When they won those 3 games in 5 days with Aaron Henry?
Yes, because it's at the end of Izzo's career, and there's so many washed and Izzo should retire people out there than there was back in 2021. They were still out there, but I think now with everything that's been going on, the trials and tribulations, especially of this team, I just think that, this year, it's recency bias for me. I'm always terrible at these things, because some things that happened recently, I'm like, that's it. It jumps on more. But I do know what you're saying about 21, but I just think, this 3 games, it has to be bigger.
Yeah, I settled on this for a couple
The way
reasons.
they played defensively is just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I settled on this. I mean, the thing that makes an argument for that is it kept the streak alive. But that was a COVID year, and it was a weird year.
And people were kind of ready for if it ended, right?
Well,
it wasn't going to be the end of the world.
It was also the year after, coming off 2 straight Big Ten championships, and a year that was obviously they didn't go to a Final Four the year before because of COVID. But nobody knew that the program was going to go through 4 years of mediocrity at that point. There wasn't the same vibes. I think this is that was really impressive. I would put this just a slight notch ahead. What is your first hot take?
Well, we were out of town this weekend, so I didn't get much like what was going on around this area. But I had to try. I was like, should I tune into 97.1, because I'm hearing that the Los Angeles Rams are trying to gauge like what Matthew Stafford's worth, or they're either going to let him and his agent kind of gauge what he's worth. And I'm sitting there going like, am I the only one? The first thing that popped in my mind is like, can we get Stafford back? Can we? Right? Wouldn't this be the most fairy tale ending? I know that everybody loves Jared Goff. Now we're chanting Jared Goff, but with the way the playoffs ended, like, is no one bringing this up? I know it's 97.1 Pat Caputo hot takey, but for real, are we not even trying to explore or talk about it? Are we going to ignore it?
So let me ask you this: Is Matt Stafford right now a better quarterback than Jared Goff?
Yes.
Will he?
I would trust Matthew Stafford in a playoff situation. If you're telling me that he's 100% healthy, even though given his age, I really don't think the age thing. I mean, as long as he's on the mend from whatever injuries he was dealing with the Rams,
Man,
I know.
You want to break a
But
man's
for a
spirit,
2
trade
year-
Jared Goff?
I'm
back to
just
the
saying.
Rams?
I'm just a question. Can we just talk about it in this open forum? I'm not saying like. I'm just saying it's just weird. Like I was kind of like searching around because I know that the cap hit for Stafford is something crazy, but I'm sure Goff is as well. I don't even think the Rams would say. By the way, are the Rams absolutely effing insane because you make it to the NFC Championship game, which you maybe should have won? I know Stafford at the end there wasn't great, and maybe the reason for that loss, the pass at the end there. But you're going to trade Cooper Kupp and then Stafford and McVay. You're going to get rid of. I just feel like you're always in it with McVay and Stafford together, and you put pieces around it. You're always in contention. And I just think down the stretch there, in certain cases, I know Matthew Stafford. We've watched him play before, and the way that he can drive a team down there, he's just one of the toughest football dudes I've ever seen. So
here would be my hesitation: is how there are certain people out there, and I'm not saying the Rams are by far the smartest franchise, but there are certain teams in different sports when they make a trade with you, you go, wait a sec, what's wrong with the guy?
Right.
My question, because the big thing was we've talked about this. The Lions, I think, for the next 2 years, have the best roster in football. Mm-hmm. I like it. I would like their chances
because of the Stafford trade.
Right. Correct. Yeah. So the Stafford trade was a win either way.
Right.
So my question is, does Stafford have 2 years left at a really high level, and that's before you'd even consider wanting him back? And
he's going to tell you that he is.
Right.
So you can't really gauge it on that.
And the Rams are willing to trade him. So that's where I'm a little like. And I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they would do that with Goff. It is a fun.
But wouldn't
exercise
it be the ultimate fairy tale story though? Right? Stafford went 1-1 with the Rams, but then comes back because Goff couldn't get it done. Stafford comes back, leads us to the glory land. I mean, come on.
I would
sign up for that.
I would become a Jared Goff fan wherever we went. I would feel so bad. It would be like abandoning a baby in a dumpster. Like I would just feel horrible. Like you can't do that to Jared Goff.
We want to win a Super Bowl. I'm ready to do horrible things to get to that Super Bowl. I don't want to kill a baby, but I'm just saying that if we had to hurt Goff's feelings by any means, I'm ready to do it. If Brad Holmes is 100% committed to the fact that he thinks Stafford can give us 2 solid years and then we kind of go from there, I don't know. I'm ready. I mean, right? Because we talk about this window always closing, and I don't think it's closing whatsoever. And I think it stays open with Goff. I just think that we could win one. I'm not going to say for sure, but I mean, I'd feel more confident with Matthew Stafford back in Detroit than Jared Goff this year. I don't know.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Huh.
I just was wondering. Can we talk about it? I'm not just.
Yeah.
Anyway, good dream.
Do you have any other hot takes?
I do. I just have one, and this happened this morning because this, Adrian Wojnarowski, for me, formerly ESPN, and now he's at St. Bonaventure doing, I don't know, whatever he's doing. And the lack of self-awareness from some of these media people. And I've always critiqued Jim Nantz. I think Jim Nantz is a legend. I think Jim Nantz is great on golf. Anytime he calls a game, I think he's a great announcer, play-by-play guy. But the fact that he gives his tie to the MVP of the national championship game has always bothered me, and it just makes I just can't believe these guys don't have any self-awareness. So anyway, Adrian Wojnarowski, he's trying to get some funds together for St. Bonaventure, and he's coming out and selling some of his former things that he used for ESPN. Lanyards.
Okay. Nice.
NBA draft credentials. Jeez. And old iPhones. These are on auction, an 8-day auction on dapsbounty.com, right? iPhone used to break the Paul George Kawhi to LA Clippers news. By the way, how many cell phones did this dude have? Because he has also an iPhone used to break the NBA suspending the season during COVID, and that's at $525. That's the highest bid right now. And my question is does Woj understand the reason why he was popular? Because he broke news in the NBA that people paid attention to. But now that he's with St. Bonaventure, I don't know how many kids are going, oh my God, I have Adrian Wojnarowski's ESPN badge from 2017 to 2024, which, by the way, is at $250. This is the highest offer.
The people want, I have lots of lanyards and
dinner with Woj.
I'm happy to give some of them to people, like lanyards and press credentials to different events. I keep some of them, but yeah, it doesn't.
But to tag the price with to start the bidding at like $200 for your NBA Finals credential from 2021, like you're making yourself you think of yourself obviously as a legend.
Yep.
Right? Like there's certain things. Legends become legends because people don't tell them.
Why did you bring up the Nance thing? What was the Nance comparison?
Because just the lack of awareness from some of these media people, and I was giving Nance as an example.
Have you ever listened to Nance in like a media podcast?
I know. Listen, I'm sure that. Listen, I understand that he and I come from different places.
Know what I mean?
He's like hoity-toity. He likes fine wine. I'm white trash. I get that. I'm not saying he's a terrible guy. Just for the simple fact that Jim Nance thought for a half second that some kid, when he hands him his tie from calling the games, that was just has always blown my mind.
I would rather hang out with you than Jim Nance.
I can totally understand. I would want to hang out with me before Jim Nance as well, because Jim Nance is not going to have as much fun as I am.
Well, I don't know about that.
Are you going to go? No, I know that. He'll take you to more fun stuff and some crazy wild shit that you're going to, you'll go golf with Peyton Manning or something. But I tell you what, you'll have way more fun doing some more debaucherous stuff with me than you will with Jim Nance. So I'm not saying I'm better than Jim Nance. I'm just saying, if you went over to someone's house, we were at a birthday party in Illinois in a nice neighborhood, right? And then we went into their house. It's like, man, what a basement. And if the guy had an iPhone on the wall sitting there, and I was like, oh my, what's this iPhone all about? And he's like, yeah, that's Woj's phone when he broke the Paul George to Kawhi to the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard, the guy that's played 15 games in about 4.5 seasons. Yeah, the Woj guy. Yeah, he broke that.
Yeah.
How much did you pay for it? Yeah, $2,000. Like, I just don't. And then dinner with Woj, like, that is my biggest fear. Like, you have dinner with Woj, and then you get, no bids on it, right? There's so many variables to this where it could depress you forever.
Woj has never actually, stood outside at a live show with, 14 people watching, and in the rain before a game.
I'm not saying I am a better person. I just know I wouldn't.
I'm just saying.
I have a lanyard from some event I went to, and I'm like,
I'm saying your fears are valid. His are not. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. We have experienced a different level of
But who's going to dinner with Woj? You really? Would you want to? I know you love the NBA, but really,
I wouldn't go. I know right? too much about him. I'm sorry. Like a lot of people love Woj.
What do you know?
I'm just saying that. Yeah,
we all have a past. I'm okay. Is he fun? Maybe I need to know his past.
I have friends who have worked with him, and a friend that I very much value, who I don't think Woj treated very well, and it led to his exit at ESPN. No, it is not.
You have one friend.
No, another different one. Oh. Different one. We've had him on this show once, at least once.
Rex Road.
Nope. Been a while. Been a few years.
Man, you have more than 2 friends. All right.
Yeah, man. And plus, if you're hanging out with you versus Jim Nance, you're much more likely to commit a federal crime hanging out with you. And I would enjoy the possibility. Like, what if you're just like, let's go steal some people's mail? And that could happen.
What kind of person are you projecting me to be? Listen, that is not fun. I didn't ever stole any mail from anyone.
I thought you did.
No. What?
Didn't you break mailboxes or something?
Like I hit him with a car. I never stole any mail.
Sorry,
what is this story?
I'm just adding stories in my head. I thought you guys had stolen mail.
I'd admit to it. Dude, I don't mess with federal crimes. What am I going to steal someone's mail for?
I don't know. I just thought that
I'm not a meth head. I'm not trying to get someone into someone's bank account that way.
That must be a different podcast. I do. I just misremembered.
Is that so large?
Yeah, somebody else. Yeah,
I'm just saying. I think I should start a committee of a self-awareness committee to where you send it. And then we analyze what you're about to do, and we can tell you, like, oh, I don't know if it's not a good look for you. If Woj brought this to the table, and hey, guys, I'm trying to raise money for St. Bonaventure. I'm going to sell my 2023 NBA draft credential. By the way, Wemby draft. That was the Wemby draft.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? Right? I just hate these media guys that think they anoint themselves legends. That's not how you do it.
The job is not to be about you, and that's the problem, right? That's.
And I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to raise money. I'm just saying, how many phones did this guy have? Why do you have so many burners? What's happening here? Anyway.
Well, and by the way, if anybody, geez, I just nearly spilled coffee all over the computer here. Luckily, I have a lid on, so it didn't.
Graham's trying to watch his language, so he almost said "golly gee willikers."
That was bad.
He really did. Oh my god,
that was bad. Fortunately, none of this is on YouTube ever.
Trying to watch the F-bombs. Golly gee.
If you have somebody in your life who's ever stolen mail and they tell you that story, that would be a story worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company here in downtown Lansing. If you're looking for a place to have a date night, a beer after work, including the American Stout, trivia on Tuesdays, check out some of their new menu options. Swing on by Midtown Brewing Company, 402 South Washington Avenue. Great character, great menu. Just good vibes there at Midtown Brewing Company. I also want to bring up, before we dig into these listener hot takes. Fat Tuesday's coming around real soon, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a Fat Tuesday schedule that is up already at Groovy Donuts. They are going to be open Friday, this coming Friday through Sunday, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. They're closed this Thursday, Friday through Sunday. And then they're open on Monday in East Lansing for pickups if you have pre-orders for Fat Tuesday, which is next Tuesday. Not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, the 4th of March. And Fat Tuesday, they'll be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at both locations. If you get your head around Fat Tuesday and Punchkis, go to groovydonuts.com. You can place your pre-orders today. They have all the frequently asked questions there, things you want to know about hours or how to do it. And I'm telling you, their Punchkis make an absolute difference. They're just different than other places. All right, we ready to dig into these listener takes?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Eric Schultz up first. Number one, the development of Richardson as that dude and Holloman as a legit point guard significantly raises this team's ceiling. If Akins could just be average from three instead of completely horrific, they'd have a real chance at making a run. Two, the fact that Gus Johnson gets big Fox games in any sport when Jason Benetti exists is nothing short of mind-blowing. I can't tell you how happy I was seeing Benetti, Raftery, and Hummel calling that game, especially when I was sure it was going to be Gus.
I think that might have been the best crew I've seen on a college basketball game. And I went back, and usually I don't listen to I'm just watching the replay on mute. Yeah. When I went back through, just because I knew who it was, I watched. It was really good. I mean, Benetti's fantastic. We know that because we watch Tigers games all summer, right?
Love Benetti, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously Hummel is as good as there is as an analyst. And Raftery's just a classic. His voice, when you hear it, it's just like it oozes college basketball, right? It's like it's Bill Raftery. And I don't know. He's just one of my the thing I love about Bill Raftery, that man is in his 80s, I believe, now. And if you are on the road and you run into him, usually it'll be in an elevator at 3 a.m., him coming back from the bar still. He's still drinking college kids under the table. He's absolute legend.
What kind of liver does this guy have?
Better one than most of us. Yeah, absolutely.
Dominic next. Number one, massive egg laid for the hockey team. Just further demonstrates the stupidity of a one-and-done NCAA format. Though I guess we lost twice, so I don't really have a point, do I? That's a story almost worth telling, brought to you watching a gay guy fall down a flight of stairs.
Dominic.
2, officials in Tucson effed my ass like a season 2 episode of Oz. It's my money and I want it now. Somehow this is Couch's fault. And bonus, sometimes I think about ludicrous shit Couch has said through the years. Josh Allen being a bust. Chris Holtman being a prime Izzo successor candidate. Denying his involvement in hashtag gay stairs gate.
That's not going to be a hashtag.
I really need to re-listen to shit from 2019, 2020 over some shrooms. And bonus. Tried a quality dairy punchki at work today. Groovy Donuts owns these frauds, and it's not close. Hit me with the cream cheese tube, Andrew, you fucking culinary king, you.
There is a difference. I mean, look, Quality Dairy is a local franchise. Appreciate them, but they do just you really don't want to be next to Groovy Donuts when you're comparing anything.
I like how you leave the fucking in for his bonus for the Groovy Donuts one, but him getting effed in the ass like season 2 of Oz.
I toned it down just a little bit.
I love when you try to tone it down.
Yeah. Don't tell him I toned it down because now
it's impossible not to.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm just saying. This makes me laugh what you decide to tone down. It's like,
come at me.
Yeah, hashtag. Chris Eastlick. Number one, we should no longer doubt this MSU team, no matter the halftime deficit. I can only imagine how fun this team will be if they can start shooting better and have complete performances the whole game. 2, the worst part of how well they've been playing against their tough schedule just makes it even more frustrating that they very well could be undefeated or have one loss in conference right now if they would have just won the games they should have against USC and Indiana.
The real question is, if they win those games, do they have the stretch they just had? Like, there is growth and there is, mental toughness and sweat equity and whatever you want to call it. There's stuff that comes out of defeat and comes out of hard moments. Now, I'm not saying they couldn't, if they had beaten USC and then still lost Indiana, they couldn't have had all this and still have a game up. But, sometimes you have to learn lessons. And I think that Indiana game was one that's been helpful since. For sure.
Maybe, not really a take, just a quick thanks for the money, gentlemen. I noticed in football season, when Jason is passionate about a bet on a fan level, he's right. Graham for weeks has been saying he likes the matchup for MSU with Michigan. I won 3 times.
Yeah, don't listen to what I pick. Listen to my words. Yeah, no, it's you're welcome, Michelle. Like you have to learn to read the tea leaves on our bets. We give a lot of bad bets, but when there are certain things. If you listen to us long enough, you can probably tell when we're really right on about.
It's mostly gut feels I hit.
Yeah,
which is really sad. Dominic Ferraro next. Friday night was MSU's biggest win post-COVID so far. This team's mental toughness and ability to close out games reminds me a lot of the 2018-19 team. I love it.
Yeah, it was. Again, it's easy to have recency bias. When you look at the last 4 years, they were not in this position at all. So you can maybe take those games out other than making sure they got in the tournament. But there is definitely a mental toughness to this team. There is a toughness. There's a toughness that a lot of teams they've had, and there is a physical stamina through their depth that is also showing up. I mean, you saw it against Purdue. I think you saw it against Michigan. What they're doing late in games, and I think there's something to it. And there have been years where I don't know that the depth has necessarily helped Michigan State, but this is one of those years where we've talked about it for a long time, how the depth is unique, but there's variety in the depth. And so it's not like they're just bringing out a lesser version of somebody in that depth for a stretch. They're bringing out somebody different, and they provide something different. And, if they could get a little more consistency for a couple guys. Like, there are teams, like what happened against Michigan, for example. They go up at the beginning. I think they hit Michigan pretty hard out of the gate. And then they played a really bad stretch of basketball, and Fears was really bad. And there are teams in college basketball that will punish Michigan State to the point in a stretch like that the second half won't be enough. And that's what they've got to make sure they fix.
Matt C. next. Number one, to go from losing 3 of 4 to holding Illinois scoreless the last 8 minutes and Michigan the last 4 minutes on the road is pretty incredible. The way they carved up Michigan's zone shows growth. Also, loved the swagger. 2, just to clear things up for the Izzo fanboys out there who treat being critical of MSU basketball like someone kicked their dog. 1, grow a pair. 2, if Izzo wins the Big Ten or makes a Final Four, that narrative is done. Need to finish the job this year and hang a banner.
That's interesting. He said, first of all, Matt C. clearly with the pure options and wrapped in a nice muskox flannel here. If you want to go from feeling as negative as Matt C. sometimes does about life to being as comfortable and happy, go to gomuskox.com. Get yourself a muskox flannel. You'll look good. You'll feel good. And just also pop a couple edibles, maybe 20 mgs of pure options. Go to pureoptions.com. Download the app today. So a couple things. So if he wins a Big Ten and or makes a Final Four, so just wins a Big Ten, doesn't make a Final Four. So they win the Big Ten, they lose in the Sweet 16 or Elite 8. That narrative dies for somebody like Matt C. And I do think winning a Big Ten does, especially the first year of 18 teams, if they win it outright, like that's a really impressive feat from where they were. And obviously,
and if he does that, will you ask Tom, like, what does it feel like to have Matt C. off your back?
He's probably goes on at night. He's like, please, please.
Is that what that feeling is?
Yeah.
The relief. Sunshine Spartan. Number one, people who go to Major League Baseball games and yell encouragement to professional players are morons.
I love this stuff.
All right. 2, okay, Graham, I'm back on board. I think MSU goes 2-2 and tie for the Big Ten title.
So, yells for encouragement to professional players. They want to hear encouragement, right? There's nothing wrong with saying.
Like what? Like, what's the example? I mean, what are you supposed to yell?
Like when they're at the bat. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I know. But I mean, what's the alternative? Like, Riley Green comes to bat. I'm like, yeah, Riley Green. All right, let's. I mean, I guess you don't say it out loud, right?
Yeah, you just kind of watch usually.
You just kind of cheer. Like, yeah, Riley Green up in number 31. And you go, all right.
Come on, you can do it, Riley. You can do it.
Watch out for the curveball, Riley. I mean, what do you? I don't know.
We believe in you, Riley.
Right.
I don't know. That makes him a moron, but I love the take. I do appreciate the take.
Makes you possibly a square person.
By the way, if you're going to a Major League Baseball game in April or a minor league game, the Lugnuts and Lansing, wherever it might be,
you must be high
and
yeah,
wearing a muskox.
You're happy and excited.
One of the two.
So everything's great. Detroit Spartan. People thought Michigan and Danny Wolf were good. Where was he down the stretch?
This is one of the more impressive things. I mean, they have.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
They have taken out players that are considered the best in the Big Ten at one point, and some of them have fallen off. Like KJ at Illinois, right? What they did to him down the stretch. What they did to Brayton Smith at Purdue in that game and how they made him uncomfortable and wear down. And now I think you're seeing that with him more regularly. Indiana did the same thing to him. And then Danny Wolf too. Like this is the strength of Michigan State is they keep coming at you, and when you rely on one guy and they bring different types of matchups and bodies, you're seeing the effect of it. Now, there are players who are better than Danny Wolf in college basketball. Can they, is that going to be enough every time out? I don't know, but I did think that was an interesting matchup. I did want to see Cohen Carr on him at times. They threw a number of different guys on him. Cohen Carr was one of them, and I thought and he was really effective. And there was a miss that Wolf had where Cohen Carr leaned into his body, and so Wolf thought, well, I'm 7'1" and Carr 6'5", I'll shoot over him. And he did this fadeaway jumper on the baseline, and Carr, who's got obviously great vertical, leap, jumped up and affected the shot. Carr can play a lot of interesting matchups. Maryland will be interesting because Maryland plays two bigs, guys who are averaging 15, 16, and 17 a game, and they got a little more weight. I don't know. I'll be very curious to see how they use him against Maryland. Izzo was asked about this today, though, and I think he is starting to trust him against all sorts of big men and the types of issues he can cause. And he's also just played so well that you need him on the floor. And so we'll see if that continues regardless of the matchup. Obviously, Danny Wolf's a little different because he's kind of a point guard. He's out in the perimeter more. But I'll be very curious to see how they use Carr at Maryland.
Holt Harv next. First time, long time. Love the show. It's a connection my brother and I have living 800 miles apart. I imagine he's the only person in Rye Brook, New York, rocking a Don't Coach My Team hoodie.
Nice.
Graham, your article referenced Jase Richardson's heavy load of 33 minutes of play time at Ann Arbor. Looked at game stats, and 4 Wolverines had 30-plus minutes and 5 total over 25 minutes. MSU's next highest playing time. MSU completely out-rebounded, defended, and out-hustled Michigan to close out the game. Their depth and ability to wear down a team is finally becoming their superpower. My take, if they get past the first game of each NCAA tourney weekend, they are a lead pipe lock to run the next team off the court and short turnaround no matter the opponent. And bake take, MSU will win regular season Big Ten championship and then start all bench players in the Big Ten tournament championship game as a protest for tipping off at 3:30 on Selection Sunday.
I love this, Holt. Holt Harv. First of all, appreciate you. I'm glad you and your brother are, we help.
We saved your relationship.
Yeah,
with you and your bro.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm impressed by it. You should too.
We'll take full credit for that. Yeah. So a couple of things here. One is I do the Big Ten tournament. First of all, I shit on it a lot. I do think it's fun. I mean, I'm not saying it's not fun. I'm not saying those championships don't have some meaning too. I'm just saying the Big Ten regular season title is the biggest title. I do wonder if you're Michigan State and you win an outright Big Ten title though in the regular season, and it's not that you're not going to give every bit of effort, but you don't want to wear. I mean, and again, you may have the depth that you can't wear down, and that's the beauty of this team. And maybe you're built for a tournament like the Big Ten tournament, and so it won't matter. But it won't matter as much. Like you've already done your thing with the Big Ten, and I think if you don't win the Big Ten regular season title, the Big Ten tournament then does take on more meaning for some teams. I am curious to see when they get in. I think Michigan State's going to be a tough team for teams to scout and to deal with in the NCAA tournament. I think sometimes it helps when you get out of Big Ten play too, as well. And I think they played themselves now also into a seed line where you're looking at, as long as they don't really screw this up, probably no worse than a 3. And if you're talking about a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, that's a second round 6 seed. 6 seeds can be really. I mean, there are lots of teams in the Big Ten who are good teams who have beaten Michigan State that are lower than 6 seeds, but. Point being, they have also shown most of the time, except for one stretch, an ability to beat teams that they're better than. And I don't think because of what they've done in this regular season that they're going to have to face a team that's potentially better than them, talent-wise, until at least the Sweet 16 and maybe later. And that's the work they've done here. I mean, they've really shot up the seed line what they did this past week. When you win against the teams you do, and you start looking at the bracketology projections and the net rankings, you're looking at a 3 right now, and if they win the Big Ten outright and finish this well, maybe a 2.
David Jackson next. Number 1, I joked a week ago when I said that I hoped that our 2 wins over Illinois would remain quad 1 wins. But hell, it looks like that now that they won't be. Screw Illinois. Scrap the program. For a program with the worst loudmouth fans, pulling an Iowa and folding as they have is hilarious. And 2, by simply splitting versus Maryland and Wisconsin, MSU is guaranteed no worse than a share of the Big Ten title because there is zero chance that the Spartans lose to either Iowa or Michigan.
I wouldn't put that as zero chance, but I do think if they win, I mean, I think even if they lose both, they got a real shot. Monday night will be telling because Michigan's got a tough game against Nebraska, right? If Michigan loses again, and then Michigan State, were to beat Michigan State could lose twice this week and still get at least a share. If they can win one of these 2 weeks, though, I think one of these 2 games, I think there's a really good chance they win it outright. And I think Wisconsin, as good as Wisconsin's been, and they've been the best team in the Big Ten, and I know they blew a game to Oregon, who was really special down the stretch, and Wisconsin screwed it up over the weekend. But Wisconsin's been the best team in the Big Ten for a little while now. Maryland is close. Like we talked about last week, is like this gauntlet that was unbelievable, the toughest since forever. This week might be tougher in terms of quality because Purdue was starting to fade a little bit, right? Illinois is just become a complete basket case. Now, Michigan State faced them before. They lost Johnson, their freshman, who was their toughness, and that he makes a huge difference for them. And then Michigan, I don't think was a horrible matchup, and it was a close game. But I don't think it was a horrible matchup. I think Maryland and Wisconsin are better than Michigan, and I think this is going to be a really hard week. I do think if they can get one of those, that's a good week.
Andrew Gauthier next. Number 1, it looks like Fears is getting his mojo back, and that's a very dangerous thing for the rest of the Big Ten right now. 2, we'll be really lucky if Jase is back next season. And 3, Couch in the Rube listeners, y'all are the best. Thanks for those of you who stopped in and said hi.
He's talking about Groovy Donuts, of course. Andrew and Monica, who own and run Groovy Donuts. The
people know.
Yeah, they do. They're the best. MSU will be lucky if Jase is back next year. That's going to be a fascinating decision, and it's going to be I'm trying to think that there have been some decisions like this, right? Obviously, Miles Bridges was an enormous one when he decided to come back, but that came. I think that was a surprise to people. That's what people assumed he was gone, and then he came back. So that was a little different. I think the biggest question if somebody was going to return that people were waiting and wavering on and knowing it would impact the next season, the last one I can think of to this magnitude would have probably been Adrian Payne after his junior year. And there was like a whole month where people were like, what is he going to do? And he was really torn on it, decided to come back. And obviously that 2013-14 team then had Appling.
Well, we didn't know it at the time, but Jared Jackson, actually, he wanted to come back, right?
Correct.
Everybody just assumed that, top 5 pick. He's out of here.
There's lots of things I guess we didn't know in hindsight. But in terms of, people sort of on pins and needles thinking there's a chance either way, I think Adrian Payne is probably the last one that compares to this. But
with the ability to be able to compensate him to come back, though,
it changes the game.
That changes the
It depends what your dreams are, where you want to be. Max Christie wanted to be a pro, and it's worked out well for him. He's actually playing really, really well right now. I think he's going to be a decade-long starting pro in the NBA.
The NBA doesn't look very fun, though. I'm saying, like, if you're going to get some NIL deal for a couple million and to be on campus and to be the guy, I mean, there's a giant difference.
So the question is, do you think your stock, like if you're a 6-foot something guard, do you think your stock could fall next year? Do you think you're
absolutely?
And so there's a lot of interest about him. He's on this rise right now.
But there's money to fall back on, though. Well, and there's a cushion to bounce with that. His parents are well off and all that stuff. But I mean, like
100%. There are lots
back
of ways.
in the day. If you didn't go, you could have lose that money was gone forever. No matter what booster is going to save your life. Now at least you have that money to come back.
The one I feel worst about is Deontay Davis. Yeah. Here's a guy whose family needed the money. He had pressure to leave. And he actually, he did fall in the draft, but he did get 3 years guaranteed, like $3 million total. But then he was out of the league. Whereas there's a guy who really needed more time and would have been so valued. Like in today's basketball, that guy would have been making, $1 million a year in college for the next couple of years and could have taken his time until he was actually ready, and he would have made a huge difference. Like think about Deontay. Mm-hmm. If he had stayed. And so he was a freshman in 2016. That 2017 team, if he's on that team as Miles Bridges and Nick Ward and Cassius Winston and all those guys come in as freshmen, and you have a sophomore big man. That team had no center. The guy, Gavin Schilling got hurt. Ben Carter got hurt, who they had brought in. They were playing Kenny Goins. Like if that guy's your center instead, with a young team, all of a sudden they have a lot more success. They're very different. Maybe he even stays another year with that sort of money. Who knows? After that, he probably would have been gone. But what I'm saying is it would have made a huge difference for his career and life. Jase is a different animal. Like Jase's situation is a different animal. I don't think Jase is a different animal. That sounds very anti-human. But Jase's situation is different. And I also because I don't think Jase is somebody who needs basketball to be successful in life. And I mean, I think he's got a real good chance to do it. And he wants to be part of it, but he's already thought this through. When he had a near career-ending injury as a 16-year-old, he thought about his basketball mortality and what he wanted to do and how he would do life without basketball. He's been through these thoughts, so he's had that level of maturity and perspective. But it will be a fascinating decision, and it'll change who MSU can be next year.
Spartan 18770 next. It's time for the Big Ten to discontinue the basketball tournament. It doesn't affect the winner's seeding, and unless you're Rutgers, it doesn't help your tournament chances. And bonus, the MSU-Michigan game should always be the last game of the season for each in basketball.
It would be great because it was, and I understand there were years where one isn't as great or it's not a huge game beyond the rivalry, but it would be fun. It would keep that last game relevant, even if it wasn't for something, like it probably will be this year and like it was late in the 2010s. The Big Ten tournament, it's still fun. I think it still has value. It's just not. There's not the desperation from the top teams. This will be an interesting year. One thing I do like about the Big Ten tournament now is only 15 teams go, and I know it used to be 14, but there are 18 teams. And there was a game the other day between Iowa and Washington, and like those two teams are playing just to get into the Big Ten tournament. It's not quite relegation because you don't get kicked out to the MAC. But what I mean is it creates incentive at the bottom. Like I guess some teams may just want the year to be over, but and you have to actually, if you're at the bottom, it's embarrassing not to even get in the Big Ten tournament. There is something late to play for there, and I think it'll still be fun. I just think as long as people understand that the regular season title is the title, and then we're good.
Ken Chu next. It's the MSU hockey team's turn for a February swoon, and from CT Hewis Lord. MSU hockey playing worse at the end of the regular season and will not repeat as Big Ten champs.
They're not playing as well as they were. I mean, Penn State's playing really well lately, but that was a rough weekend, and it certainly takes the Big Ten championship, regular season championship, out of their hands. What's sort of interesting about the Big Ten hockey is I don't want to say it's the reverse of basketball, where the Big Ten tournament has some more meaning, but even back with the CCHA, like the tournament has been ingrained in the culture. Best 2 out of 3 a full weekend in the first round, best 2 out of 3 the second weekend, and then a championship game. Like it's a 3-week process. It's a little bit more ingrained in the culture. So I think that is still something to play for, whether they pull it off this weekend or not. Penn State may take a point or two from or a couple points from Minnesota this week. And then Michigan State's at the worst team in the Big Ten, so you find out a little about them. It is tough, though, because they had it in their control if they just had a little bit better weekend.
Jebediah next. MSU basketball will win the Big Ten after beating Maryland, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and inexplicably losing to Iowa, because of course they will. Bonus, you shouldn't be allowed to talk about a major sport you just started paying attention to 2 weeks ago. You know exactly what fan base I'm talking about.
I think Michigan fan base. Yeah, Michigan. They pay attention. There are just less of them who do.
I'm not talking about Michigan.
I think there are a couple. You don't want to. If you're a Big Ten franchise, Big Ten program, you don't want to ever send the meme that says "sold out" about your game like it's some big like sold out should be the norm. And if it's not, work to sell out, but don't tell people, "Hey, we sold something out." I think it's be more interesting to say, "Hey, there's still tickets available," assuming people would assume it was sold out.
Great tickets still available.
Yeah. No, it's a basketball. It's a football school. It is. It always will be.
Dave Lakin next. I used to believe that this MSU team's strength was their great defense and rebounding. While those attributes are hallmarks of MSU basketball, I now realize MSU's 10-deep bench is their real strength. Michigan was gassed in the second half.
Yeah, this is the first year. I mean, somebody asked today about the strength in numbers, which becomes this tired slogan in some way, but it really has been a strength, and we've seen it, and it becomes a strength because MSU's players buy into it, because a guy like Trey Holloman is willing to go to the bench and his role changes slightly and actually increased his minutes, but he's, he handles it well. And it was interesting. Izzo actually talked about that today with Holloman, and when he was making that decision, he knew Jase Richardson was coming into the starting lineup. That had been earned, he said. And so it was now who goes out. And, we've talked about this a little before, who could handle it. Because I don't think he thinks of Trey Holloman as the guy who really should have come out. But he looked at it as who can handle it. And he knew Trey Holloman could. And he also thought who would help the rotations. And he thought Trey Holloman most because he plays both positions. But I thought that was interesting.
Gorjo next. Akins has played lockdown defense all season and is one of the most acrobatic finishers at the rim that Izzo's ever had. Yes, he's not hitting his threes like we all want and expected, but feels like he's not appreciated enough by the fans. As the kids say, give him his flowers. Bonus, the East Lansing boys basketball team deserves a Graham Couch feature. 3 second-generation Spartans leading the way in Torbert, Hudson, and Thomas. That's wild, man. KJ Torbert could be the next Jase Richardson.
It is an interesting team, and they've got a chance to go a long way if they can get past Waverly this week. Tough early matchup in districts, but if they do, they got a chance to get to Breslin, and if that's a feature that might actually be worth doing.
Scotty Green's El Camino next. You have a pretend program when your opposing fan base is the loudest cheer you hear all game, and your star player makes a life mistake by proposing to his girlfriend after a loss to your rival. No MSU player would ever do that. Pretend program. And baked, John Garvaglia isn't Xavier Booker. John Garvaglia stands on his own. John Garvaglia was decent. This isn't a take. I just wanted to hear Jason pronounce John Garvaglia a bunch of times. Comedic gold. Super baked take. Like 100 MGs from Pure Options. Jeremy Fears was shot by his brother, and he'll transfer to MSU this summer to make amends. At least that's what Couch told me. So Couch appears if you take 100 MGs and tells you shit.
That's one of the things they don't tell you at Pure Options is if you get to the 100 MGs level, I just appear. It's like a hologram.
Stop at 90 then.
Yeah, Garavaglia. I love it. That's
the one name Couch can pronounce and showing off.
So there are two things here. Obviously, Vlad from the big man from Michigan proposing to his girlfriend after a loss.
Yeah.
I understood this to some degree. I don't know why he did it, but if your plan the whole day is I'm going to do this now, I've revved up to do it, and you think you're going to win. Now, that was there's a big risk in a game that's like 50-50 to win or lose, and then you lose the game and you've got the ring and you're planning and your girlfriend may have an idea something's going to happen and you don't do it. What do you wait till you beat Rutgers? I don't know.
No, you just do it later. You do it. You don't do it after a game. You just do it.
I would not have done it on the court.
No way.
I would have waited
after a loss.
I would have waited that night
to Michigan State.
Yeah. It's not great. It sort of speaks to the idea that you didn't understand the intensity of the rivalry. You're a new guy to the rivalry. And we've seen that happen. But
no matter where you are, do you want to really propose after a loss, though? I mean,
you look a little too happy.
You really, honestly, you couldn't postpone it. If you sit there and go, okay, if the low percent chance we lose, or however you want to think about it, right? You go, okay, I'll have to wait another time, or you can do it in another romantic way, I think.
Let me point out let me give you a possibility for what happened. This happened to me. So in 2015, Christmas 2015, I was going to propose Christmas night to Elizabeth. And she was still mostly living in Chicago because we had separate places because she was working at the Tribune. And that seemed great. I bought this engagement ring. That was the plan. And then I've told this story before, but her uncle, who thought she was going to be alone on Christmas night because I was going to be then flying to see Michigan State, Alabama in the Cotton Bowl in that playoff game. He decides to bring his whole family down, her cousins and everything. They're going to take her out to dinner, which totally steps on my plans for this romantic. So, okay, whatever. I go along. I get her like a mattress pad and a dustbuster or something for Christmas instead. So it was awful. So I have to hold off on the ring. And then we were only seeing each other like once every 2 weeks. And for some reason, we couldn't see each other like 2 weeks later. Something scheduling. And 2 weeks after that, she comes home. And I don't really have a great plan for what to do, but I know this. I'm like 2 days away from the 30-day return policy on the ring. And I'm panicked. I got to do this now because she's going to say yes. But what if she doesn't like the ring? We got to do this. And so I don't have a great plan. So we're watching one of my favorite movies, The Paper, with Michael Keaton and Marissa Tomei, and great movie. You haven't seen it. And we're just sitting there having a good night, and I slink off to go get the ring. I'm going to come back and propose. I come back. She's on the phone yelling at UPS. I don't know what's happened. So now I'm just pacing and sweating. And eventually she gets off the phone all steamed, and I just got on the couch and asked her to marry me. And that's how it happened. It wasn't, the timing didn't seem great. The situation wasn't all that romantic other than the movie choice. But the ring was going to have to be returned in 2 days if she didn't like it. And maybe that happened here to Vlad. Maybe he'd been thinking about it and saved it, and he was up against. That's my excuse for him.
Exactly.
That's a story almost worth telling, but
how
told anyway.
How soon did you ask her if she liked it, though? Because you're probably just chomping at the bit to see if she liked it. I
knew she liked it right away.
Oh.
Yeah. That is a story almost worth telling, presented by our friends at Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing. Midtown Brewing Company with Trivia Tuesdays. If you want to put together a trivia team, 7 o'clock and enjoy that. It's I don't know. They do a great job of it there. Great place for a date night, a lunch with a colleague, or any occasion. That's Midtown Brewing Company in downtown Lansing.
Luis Baez next. This is the first time in a long time the Izzone has been a big factor for the Spartan home games. Can't put my finger on it, but it has felt that way from prior years.
It's been a pretty good Izzone. I mean, some of that, I guess it depends. Relative to recent years, they've just had a lot of success this year, and it's been a year with buzz, right? I mean, I think winning does some of that. So I think that's probably why it feels that way.
Glenn Smith. Number one, going into the season, I never would have thought I'd have to fire up 2 TVs to watch the Pistons and Red Wings play at the same time. Must-see TV. 2, glad to see the MSU women won with Graham in attendance. First time this year, if I'm not mistaken. And yes, your blue muskox does make your eyes pop, even from the other end of the court. And 3, Duke is way more than Cooper Flag. Bad news for everyone else.
Duke looks pretty good, although Illinois just was awful the other day. But yeah, no, Duke. I think Duke and Auburn are probably. There might be others, but those are the 2 teams that if you can avoid having them as the 1 seed in your bracket, that's ideal. So it's like a 50-50 chance, really, because those are going to be 2 of the 1 seed. So if you're Michigan State and you get up to a 2 or you're a 3, either way, you're on the other side at least. You don't want to fall to a 4 because then there's a 50-50 chance you get them in a Sweet 16. But if you're a 2 or a 3, you're at least on the other side of the bracket, and then there's a 50-50 chance you don't have Duke or Auburn. I think that would be the ideal situation for an NCAA tournament.
Rocco from Chicago. Number one, an MSU men's basketball and hockey Big Ten title in the same winter is not memorable within a year or two, but it does turn lots of cold and dark winter days into something positive over the course of a winter. And 2, 4 nations should realize that their popularity came from hatred. Allowing Russia back in and encouraging them to be the enemy is the best way to keep the event relevant.
So it'll get interesting when they're going to take part in the Olympics. So I don't know if they're planning to do it next year. I'd hope not. To me, the best thing they can do with the 4 nations is not overdo it, is not force it in an Olympic year. So next year when it's an Olympic year, don't do it. And just don't. I mean, that would
do an exhibition during the summer.
Just don't. Yeah,
USA,
don't do anything.
Canada.
Don't do anything. Right.
Yeah.
It's don't even have the NBA. I think should. I know there's a lot of money behind their All-Star break and everything, but I think their All-Star break should be earlier because I think right after football, this is when there's
no one's going to care then.
Right. But what I mean is right now nobody cares now.
Yeah.
And right now people are turning to what they want is meaningful basketball. Okay, the NFL season over. What's going on? Wait, the Pistons are 5 games over 500 and they're, in the 6th seed. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wait a sec. They're off for a week and a half while these teams monkey around at the freaking All-Star break. What the hell is that? Monkey, by the way, was not a derogatory. Jesus, I didn't mean that. It was a goof around. I just worry that somebody's going to take that the wrong way. That was fix that in post, please. Holy shit!
What is wrong with you, man?
Lots of things.
Just monkeying around. Max next. What the fuck? Baked first. While on our way west to ski, we watched the game from Billings. It started at 6 p.m. Mountain Time is great. Maybe we can get Governor Whitmer to sign an executive order moving Michigan to Mountain Time. We have certainly seen crazier orders lately. Serious takes. Number one, Trey Holloman's spurt in the second half was reminiscent of Vinnie Johnson with the Pistons. He took over for a time, and Michigan didn't have an answer. He needs a nickname. Since the microwave is taken, how about the blowtorch? 2, the blue wall is real. I woke up this morning expecting to find the win in a prominent spot on the Freep online. Nope, just one article on the landing page. No picture either. If Michigan had won, I'm sure that it would have been the number 1, 2, and 3 story.
The blowtorch for Trey Holloman.
To the blue wall.
I don't know. We can work on the nickname, but maybe if he keeps
Couldn't
doing
you use
this,
microwave though? I mean, like Vinny Johnson's a while ago. I mean,
I do
how many
think-
people remember? I mean, I do.
actually,
of course.
I think that's not bad. I think you could, especially if you do it as sort of, as respect to Vinny Johnson, the legend, because that's what it is. You're like saying this guy's a modern day Vinny
It's
Johnson.
not like we're calling him 007, right? Because that's Vinny Johnson's like legit nickname.
Was
He
it
hit
really?
that shot in 0.007 seconds against Portland?
I didn't know that was double. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's why it was 007.
Learn something every day here.
Right.
The blue wall, like I know how some of this might work, and I'm not sure what. Sometimes it's the order in which story. So I know the way our system works. I'll give you a little bit of a sense behind the non-blue wall here, because we have the same operating system, right? Same. And when you put a story as a priority, if a newer story comes up with the same priority, it just means what the most recent story is. Now, you can make one story the lead story. You can make that choice, but that's probably what happened. And I guarantee you it was not overly thought. It was overnight, most recent story. There was a significant story is what it's – I'm just telling you right now, knowing our system, it's not ideal, but that's probably what happened.
It's a long way to go to just say that there's no blue wall, I guess. Skylar Verdon, hot take. Michigan crowd was not that intense for a rivalry game, despite the broadcast trying constantly to convince me so. MSU crowd was way more intense for the Purdue game.
Well, yeah, I mean, Michigan is not – I mean, first of all, Michigan did a good job of not letting Michigan State overtake Chrysler like they have at times. So what would you say? It was 85% Michigan fans. I felt like it was. You could hear a couple times. You could hear the "Go Green, Go White" chants pretty prominently. So they were there and they were loud. But
That was just Matt C.
that was just Matt C.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Jake Hawkins, probably. Aledo next. At this point, who won the Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford trade? And bonus, to make the Final Four, either Akins or Fears has to step up.
Who won the trade? It's a
Well, the Rams won a Super Bowl. So, I mean, the point of this whole stupid thing is to win Super Bowls. So.
right. Well, I don't even think. But the
currently,
Lions. It was. I think both teams.
It's not
won
a
it.
blow. No, I know, but I'm just answering the question.
Yeah,
Currently,
yeah.
as we sit right now, the Rams won the trade because they traded for Stafford and won the next season.
Yep.
Now the Lions became relevant because of that trade as well, and if we win a Super Bowl, I think that you could say that we won the trade. We just had to wait longer. But
I'd say right now it's a wash because both teams got exactly what they wanted out of it.
yeah, but you got to win a Super Bowl.
Right, but
If we don't win a Super Bowl out of this whole deal, then the Rams won that trade. Then
the Lions got everything they want. So here's the other component. The Lions got everything they wanted, plus Jared Goff wound up being a lot better than they thought. They thought he was a stopgap guy, right? He was not supposed to be. He was just kind of the guy to get them through some times. The way that the Lions don't win this trade, and this is the dark side of things, is if it turns out that Jared Goff is incapable of winning a Super Bowl because he always makes big mistakes in the big moments in the playoffs over the next couple of years. Then by him being better than they thought and not, developing a quarterback after that trade or going to get one, that winds up being the greatest tease of all time. And then the Rams win the trade.
Jared Goff. Joey Mailage next. Best take. 2 years ago, I wrote you when Trey Holloman was barely playing many minutes, saying he would be the next version of Cassius. MSU needs to ride him in March. And bake take, pizza shops should sell cold pizza. And bonus, I would give my left nut for a retro MSU hockey jersey.
They are cool jerseys. I mean, didn't the season?
Well,
jersey,
Joey, I have one, so bring your nut down here. I'll swap it out for you. Let's see how.
I'm sure Woj is actually selling them online with the pizza shop
lanyard.
Cold pizza chops. I don't know that would be kind of stale. I mean,
why on earth would you want that? What do you mean, to take it home and to nuke it yourself?
well, no, you already cooked, but then cold. I mean,
no,
I don't want that.
That'd be the worst selling pizza of
Yeah.
all. I mean, like, I get what you're saying, that you probably think cold pizza like the next day is kind of decent, but like,
yeah, just save some.
if you have an air fryer, like.
Well, here's the thing: just get a fresh pizza, have some that day, and then have some cold pizza the next day.
But I think what he's saying is he likes a nice slice of cold pizza. I just think he's like one of very few people that would. buy that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, no. It's look, it's a big take. This is Pure Options doing work for you, you know?
Sure.
And anytime you have something in front of you that you want to taste good, Pure Options is here for you.
Jeff Peterson, Jase Richardson is the best weapon on MSU's team, but Trey Holloman is the MVP for showing up and balling for 3 years. 3 years now, regardless of starting or coming off the bench. How rare.
Yeah, and I mean, Trey Holloman is the ultimate program guy. And I think he's going to be looked at really, really fondly by the time he's done.
Do you think Jaden Akins sees that and is like, maybe I should,
do what? What
well,
would
just
Akins
be
do?
kind of a team guy.
He
Like
is a
instead of
team
trying
guy.
to be the guy, well, but he's wanted to be the guy
Well, there's nothing
throughout
wrong.
the season. And
100%.
you see a guy like Holloman who's done it. He's done whatever. He wants to do whatever it takes for this team to win. Not saying Akins doesn't.
But the difference is Holloman is a sort of a he's a guy who plays the point and the two. He's a true combo guard, right? Yeah. And that has not been what Akins has been. I think Akins has done a nice job of. I mean, he's got to keep taking open shots when he's out there, right? Now I do think though there's a point where you become somebody who's not considered one of the shooters on the floor. Like there are certain lineups you always say you can't have these guys together because you don't have enough shooting. And at a certain point, Akins falls into that. Like you still got to also have Holloman or Richardson out there with them, and usually you will based on how it's. But you can't have, you can't go Fears, Akins, Carr, Biggs. You know what I mean right now, and that's what becomes an issue is because you're not right now hitting enough shots for that to work.
Travis Maynard next. No doubt that Jeremy Fears is vital to MSU's success, but Trey absolutely needs more than 25 minutes a game. He and Jase are a lethal combo. Our depth is a strength, yes, but hard to shake the feeling that we dig our own holes at times. And bonus, another 2-day prep for Michigan after a road game at Iowa is hot swamp ass. Who made this schedule?
It is a tough, like if you look at the schedule of the finish, Michigan State plays at Iowa on Thursday night, and then it's a Sunday noon game. Now, again, you played this team already, and this is what we'll talk about. Like one of the things that's harder about the new Big Ten than the old Big Ten when you played a lot more teams twice is that the scouting you really have to do once, and you adjust some things based on what happens, but the real prep goes into that first matchup. Now there's like 17 teams you face once in the Big Ten. That's a lot of extra work. And so at least with Michigan, like with Illinois, you're seeing the same team again, right? And I think there's, in terms of prep now, and again, we've seen it with MSU's depth, like in terms of being fresh and having the legs, they just did 3 games in 7 days and looked like the fresher team at the end against Michigan. And Michigan had a lot of time off coming into that game. So I don't know that that's ever going to be an issue for this Michigan State team in terms of just being up and ready and not worn down.
Professor next. Trey Holloman is a program saver and will be one of the most fan favorite Spartans ever. And baked, people need to get off planes faster. If the person in front of you makes it off the plane before you get your stuff out of the overhead bin, you are too slow and should have to wait until the end.
You don't want to make people panic, though, because there is that sense, like, you can. I always hate when there's, like, an older woman who's already nervous about how heavy the overhead case is she's got to pull out, and, like, she feels the pressure of everybody around her. It's like...
Good.
It's should. Not good. No, let it because if
come on, lady.
It's like sometimes when you hurry up to tie your shoes or whatever, it goes slower. It doesn't.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, so like
because that's what I do. I panic and try to get out of there as fast as possible, and I probably take longer than if I just relax. But I just want to make sure everybody. I'm with Trav. I just want to get out of there. I want to make sure I'm. I don't F around. I don't mess around on planes, dude. Just get me out of there.
Yeah.
Some people just lackadaisical and putting their shoes on and shit.
I mean, you should start to prepare yourself as you're landing. There's no question. Like, you should be ready. Seatbelt should be off. All the phones and accessories should be where they need to be. You shouldn't be.
But as soon as that belt thing hits, it's not like you don't have to stand. Though,
no.
Right?
No.
There's those people, and I've been those people. Just because I'm nervous, I don't want to be the slow person. But
and I'll say this:
why am I standing still?
If you do have another flight to catch a connection, you should say it as you charge forward. Too many people when they charge forward, you're like, well, look at this asshole. I mean, I totally understand.
I saw a lady do that. I'm like, man, oh man, she must have to take a shit. And like, oh no, right, she's got a connection.
Right.
But announce that.
I totally understand, because if you say to me, like, if I don't have a connection or I'm not in a hurry, and you say I'm in a hurry, I have a connection, everybody in the world understands that. No,
yeah, but they're going to say that though because you want to get off the plane.
Yeah, it's a douche.
I got a connection.
That would be a douche thing to do without actually having one.
That would stop people.
Have you ever been so late that you had to talk people in the security line to let you ahead of them?
No.
I've been there.
Because I'm there
worst.
an hour and a half. I'm an hour before flight guy. I'm always on time. So not like you.
I underestimated the security line at one place. I was like, holy, I have no chance. And I one by one, I had to hey, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
It sucked. It was the worst.
Can you imagine that?
It took so much energy out of me. Oh, it's the worst. Yeah.
How many people did you have to go through?
Oh,
how many times did you have to do that?
120. I don't know.
No.
It was a huge line. That was the problem. I wasn't that late to the thing. I just got there and it was like, it was one of those days where the airport's just overwhelmed. And you're like, oh, this is not good. I didn't plan on this.
You might as well just yell, I got to shit my pants, and then just run up to the line.
Next time.
Yeah, that saves time. Shabadoots next. MSU's defensive intensity at the end of games is wearing teams down to the point that they can barely score. Because of our depth, our guys have more energy and fresher legs, which is why we are dominating the last 5 minutes of every game and closing out games ferociously.
Yeah, I mean, it's well said. We've talked about it here. I mean, it's showing up, and it's real depth. It's not the depth that you sometimes have that's just lesser player playing those minutes. Now, you're going to have to, and Izzo talked about this Monday, you're going to have to start leaning into guys like Jase Richardson more, but it's not going to be. I mean, he played 33 minutes the other day, and maybe that'll happen again. But that's less than Cassius was playing every night as a senior.
Brendan, next. If they can shoot over 35% from three and limit turnovers like the second half against Michigan, this team can win a natty. The defense and rebounding has become legit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the component that'll stop them from. I mean, again, I do think there will be teams that are better than them, but I also think they can beat anybody on a given day as long as they're not, and we've seen where they're cold shooting, and that's going to be a problem. But I think this is a team that can beat anybody on a given day, and that probably includes Duke and Auburn. It'd have to be the right day, and it's probably less likely against a couple teams. But I do think they pose some interesting problems, and they've got a mental fortitude about them that's shown up repeatedly.
Sparty Barb next. Number 1, MSU women's basketball wins the Big Ten tournament. 2, MSU men's basketball beats Maryland. Maryland beats Michigan. And 3, MSU hockey bounces back and wins the Big Ten tournament. Bonus. Jase Richardson makes first team all Big Ten.
MSU women's basketball in the Big Ten tournament will be interesting. The top of the league is ferocious. They probably need to get to the semifinals at this point to be able to get a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament and host. So that's going to be something worth watching. And unlike the men's tournament, because the Big Ten women's tournament's a week earlier, all those games do really matter in terms of seeding in the NCAA tournament. The Jase Richardson all Big Ten is going to be fascinating. I mean, there are a lot of guys, he's not going to be first team because he hasn't done this all year. And in fact, he won't even be the freshman of the year, which is incredible. That's how good a freshman group this has been. But it will be interesting to see if he makes all big. I mean, I think he should, the way he's playing right now, if this team wins a Big Ten, how do you not have Jase Richardson be on an all Big Ten team? He has to be. And it'll be interesting to see where that falls and how that gets judged. I do some of those teams. I haven't looked at it closely enough yet, but I think there can be some interesting decisions.
Money bag. Next, shooting obviously isn't his strength, but Jeremy Fears is a capable enough shooter that he shouldn't be getting the tum-tum treatment.
Yeah,
prove it then.
Well, but I don't think he's getting entirely the tum-tum treatment. Tum-tum, they were running from him. They were we cannot get far enough away from you before you shoot this three. It's if the basket were further away, we would be further away. But unfortunately, it's only 22 feet we can get away from you. I don't think it's quite that way. But you're right, and Fears has got to keep, he banked in that three, and he did say, I asked him about that. He said he didn't call it, but or I don't know if I asked it. Somebody asked it. I didn't mean to steal it. Somebody else might have asked it. I was in front of him when he was asked of it. Could have been me. I think it was me, actually. Anyway, long time ago. A lot of pure options since then. But he said he did think it was in when he let it go. And so there's still confidence to take that shot late in the game, and that's different than tum-tum there. And let's take a really quick break. We come back. We'll dig into more of your takes. Couch in the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Monday show, presented by our friends at Muskox Quality Flannels.
Hey, sports fans, are you tired of the same old routine? Looking for a way to unwind after a long day? Look no further than Pure Options, the premier destination for all of your cannabis needs in Lansing, Detroit, Muskegon, and Mount Pleasant. Whether you're cheering for the Lions, Spartans, or the Wolverines, Pure Options has everything you need to elevate your game day experience. Mention Couch the Rube when you visit Pure Options and get a Pro Grow 8th with a $50 purchase. It's our way of saying thank you for being a loyal listener. Swing by Pure Options today and elevate your cannabis experience to a whole new level. Firekeeper's online casino and sportsbook is the site to play from your phone, tablet, or laptop. Get in on all the football action with pre- and in-game wagering. There's showdowns every week in football that you can't miss. Plus, the college and pro hoops are red hot, and the pucks are cool. Get your first casino deposit and sports wager matched up to $500 each. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. 2 amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Ever wonder how comfortable you can be and how good you can look? Put on a Muskox flannel and find out. Muskox has new arrivals for this fall, including the Caper Green Grand Flannel, which even makes couch look good. Muskox is a Detroit-based flannel company that creates soft and durable flannels made to last a lifetime. They become a great partner with Couch and the Rube, not just because they make us look good and feel good, but because they're good people too, and a socially conscious company. For every $100 purchase, $10 is donated to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation. Muskox flannels are designed with 100% cotton that is ethically sourced and double brushed for softness. Feel the quality and comfort of a Muskox flannel by ordering at GoMuskox.com, where Couch and the Rube listeners can enjoy $15 off their flannel purchase with the promo code HOFF.
Find Couch and the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite podcast addict.
Couch and the Rube, presented by our friends at Pure Options Craft Cannabis, and our Monday afternoon show brought to you by Muskox Quality Flannels. If you want to look your best, feel your best, and just look better than you actually do look, Muskox Flannels are here for you. GoMuskox.com is the site, and Fix It in Post, all one word, Fix It in Post at GoMuskox.com for $15 off your flannel purchase. It is definitely flannel season. This is awesome. Upper 40s, no coat, just a flannel. Unless you're Jason and then you're just wearing cutoff sleeves and jorts and things like that. So.
Keith up next. The ice is thin for MSU to win the regular season Big Ten title. If things break as predicted, MSU goes 3-1 in the last 4 with a loss to Maryland. Michigan goes 4-1 with a loss to MSU. Maryland, Wisconsin, and Purdue are already too far back. And bait take, but actually a walking my dog in 5-degree weather take, is that the Big Ten needs a theme song like the UEFA Champions League UEFA has for all of their games. Tell Rube it's a soccer thing. They can make all the broadcasters play it at the beginning of the games, something with majesty.
Yeah, so the UEFA theme song is very, it's like anything. It's like the old NBC, NBA, certain songs you hear and you go, oh, I know what this is. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Basketball.
God, that still is great, isn't it? It never gets old.
Oh, man.
Oh, so good. Makes me want to watch the NBA.
Makes me tingle. Yeah.
It's so good. Oh, my God. I'm excited. Well, let's do 4 more hours of this shit. Here we go.
Listening to Pat O'Brien. Oh, my God.
It's going to be Rick Mahorn today. It's going to be good. John Sally, let's watch it.
Keep your khakis on.
Who needs khakis? I got a muskox here.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No pants. I would like that. That would be a good way of branding. That's that's a good idea, Keith.
All right. Jimbo Jones next. Izzo has not gotten enough credit for the generally outstanding halftime adjustments that have been made, minus Indiana. When it's mattered most this year, this MSU team has put the hammer down on good teams in the second half. And baked, naming college stadiums after companies is a bad thing? How about Muskox Arena, Pure Options Pavilion, Groovy Donuts Garden?
Jimbo, I love where your head is. I would happily.
Those make sense.
Yeah, they all make sense. Yeah, definitely not a bad idea. I think you're right. The adjustments have been good. They have done, for the most part, and there have been exceptions, and we've talked about them. They have done a good job of feeling out. Trey Holloman's been a big part of it. They've had guys to go to who have stepped up when other guys haven't. So Holloman's been a big part of that lately. But even Booker, and I talked about him in the open. But like the timing of when to use him and when not to use him. Like, here's a guy who clearly wants a bigger role, and at Michigan they go to him in a key moment when they're in trouble a little bit, and he hits just a mammoth three. And then they don't play him in the second half because they realize there are other aspects of this matchup that aren't working and other things are. Like, that is the adjustment. That is a not worrying about somebody's ego or whether they're going to leave the program or anything. That's trying to win that game. And I think those sort of things they've done really well.
T-Bone's dad next. Graham taking Michigan in his prediction column when I know darn well he truly believed MSU could win is an all-time reverse jinx. Couch, I see what you did there, and I'm here for it, you motorboating son of a gun. Hex yeah. And bonus, while Xavier Booker is unequivocally frustrating at times, his three just before halftime was a massively underrated shot that steadied the team when they were faltering. So thank you for that, Xavier. And from Mr. Benjen. Number one, last week I asked which one player stirs MSU's drink. You didn't have an answer. Booker is the answer. Even in very limited minutes, his impact puts MSU over the top. See his three at Michigan. And two, 80s child teenage desperation topic. The Spanish channel was hotter than scrambled Skinamax.
Okay, a couple things. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Xavier Booker's the guy who stirs the drink for this Michigan State team. I think he's a guy who can have an impact and a guy who can have, in the right matchups, in the right moments, could have I think in the NCAA tournament, there will be a game where Xavier Booker will have a big impact and we'll be writing and talking about him. And he seems to have a sense of the moment. And he's not afraid of that. The Spanish channel scrambled versus Skinamax scrambled, better teenage memories.
Yeah, but you couldn't with the scrambled. It wasn't scrambled Cinemax. It was scrambled like porn. Like we had Cinemax. Like you could get all right.
I didn't have Cinemax.
Okay. Well, but I'm saying we were trying to get scrambled porn and trying to see some sort of penetration. The Spanish channel, they're actually trying to do. I mean, yes, it was wacky in some of the shows, but you didn't know what was going on, and some of it wasn't really that hot. Anyway.
And it wasn't scrambled. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, it wasn't scrambled. It was
like Cinemax scrambled. I mean, that would be terrible, right?
Well, some of us weren't living the
high life.
Like
there was
you.
HBO at my grandparents' house. They had HBO. They had, I think, Cinemax, but I didn't.
So when a new movie started, you were waiting for the rating, and you're waiting for them to tell you what it was about.
And then it would be like, this movie is rated R. You're like, hell yeah, there's a nudity.
Yes. The worst
penetration. I'm like, what? No, I never said that.
The most disappointing thing ever was when they would say brief nudity. Like,
yeah, right.
That sucks.
But then you go,
not really anything.
Well, I'm already committed.
Yeah,
so
already
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to really work my mind a little bit. And it's just watching terrible movie after terrible for an hour and a half until you can get to the right scene. These kids have no idea, by the way. These kids, man.
But it was better back then. It was better. Like you're waiting like 20 minutes for Nicole Eggert to take her shirt off.
But I'd rather have Pornhub shuck one off and then go about my day after that watching an hour and 20. We watched some terrible dude. There was some god awful movies we sat through.
It was better.
It
was better back then.
No. Voice of Gorham softball. Hot take. I'll concede to Mr. Benjen that everything after Candlebox's 1998 release, Happy Pills, is irredeemable and hotter. Indiana women's basketball ain't shit without Gorham's Mackenzie Holmes carrying the program on her back.
Yeah, no. Gorham, obviously, Gorham is in Gorham, Maine, and Mackenzie Holmes was a hell of a player for Indiana.
No kidding. That's what Gorham means. Okay.
Yeah, it's not Gotham. Yeah, it's Gorham. Yeah, the better place. Gotham's just, Gorham.
Gorham, Maine.
Yeah, it's
sounds great.
That whole that southern Maine is
flannels
beautiful.
And nice weather.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, the one problem they have up there is there's a lot of LL Bean, and while I like and respect LL Bean compared to Muskox is like quality dairy to a groovy donut. It's just not the same quality.
Alex Mayer, number 1, that was the toughest week-long stretch any team will play all season. And 2, if he didn't start so many games, Trey Holloman would win 6th Man of the Year award in a runaway.
Yeah, he can't be eligible for it because he started the whole 13-game win streak, right? So that doesn't really work. Yeah, no. What's going to be fascinating about Michigan State is where they land on these all-conference teams, because you do have a lot of guys, a lot of depth. You didn't have the one star for most of the year in a lot of ways, and yet they're going to win the Big Ten, or they could win the Big Ten. If they win the Big Ten, especially if they win it outright, like how do you not – that roster needs to be included throughout those teams, and that'll be an interesting seeing how that's judged.
MZA, at this point in the season, an Elite 8 run for MSU should be the expectation at minimum. And bonus, Maryland will be MSU's toughest game all season.
Yeah, I mean, it could be tricky. I am curious to see what happens. Maryland is a place that sometimes the crowd turns on them when they're good, though, and it's a good crowd, and this will be a big game. It is 6:30 on a Wednesday. Not great in that area, but you look at their starting group. I mean, they've got 3 guys that can hit threes. They've got 2 good big men. It's probably the most complete starting 5, and they don't play a ton of the bench guys, so maybe that works in Michigan State's favor as it has in other games. I mean, they're not a perfect team, but I'm actually surprised they've got 5 losses. I don't know. I've watched a couple Maryland games this year. I thought they're really, really good, and I think they're of the teams. Like I think I said before, Wisconsin and Maryland, who Michigan State plays this week, are playing better than the 3 teams Michigan beat last week.
Joey Sparty next. MSU's next coach will be a former player. Tum Tum, Draymond. Would be curious to hear a list of who you think are plausible candidates.
I mean, it really depends on what happens down the road. My guess is Draymond doesn't want to be part of that. And, I mean, he would be an interesting hire, but it could go a lot of different ways. And Izzo has also built something that probably deserves a more proven coach. I'm not saying Draymond, if he really wanted that, couldn't talk his way into consideration. Bowling Green's had a rough year this year. But, again, it's really hard at the mid-major level. The thing that sucks for these guys who are like mid-major coaches who people are looking at, could you be the next Izzo replacement? It's damn near impossible to build anything at the mid-major level now. You get a decent player, you think you found something, they transfer, they get paid. Bowling Green lost like 3 guys to high majors this past year after winning 20 games last year. How do you build on that, right? So 10 new guys this year, they're not quite as good. It's just how it happens. Dwayne Stevens at Western Michigan, it just hasn't happened so far, and they just got pounded by Central Michigan. Even with Drew Valentine, Loyola. Now they've been a little better, a little more consistency, which I think is impressive because they don't have the NIL budget that a lot of places do, and they have some. But so all that is, how you judge a coach. I'll give you an example. Nate Oates. Everybody talks about Nate Oates as a possibility, and I think he could be a possibility. Who knows? But Nate Oates, Buffalo doesn't win the way it did with Nate Oates in the modern era or keep those players before the transfer portal. You know what I mean? So is Nate Oates still the same coach? Would he have ever gotten that opportunity? I think it's going to be hard to judge. ADs are really going to have to look at and figure out who could. Great example, and I'm rambling here, but that's what I do. Ben Johnson at Minnesota. I think he could win at Michigan State. I think he could win a lot of places. Minnesota has a shit budget right now for NIL. Now, we'll see how much that changes and what their priorities are when they go to rev sharing here. But I think he's a really good coach, and I think what he's done this year has been impressive. But there's just no way for you to win consistently in Minnesota unless there's going to be more of a contribution from millionaires and billionaires and stuff like that. And you're going to and they don't seem to have those resources.
Dave Lakin next. It's time for the Gramanito Couch Tiger Spin Zone. Please tell us how Baez's arrival sends a jolt of energy and hope through Tigers camp, like the Detroit News headline says. I was actually hoping that Baez was gone. Is that the headline?
Hey. Oh, boy.
Caution! You are about to enter the spin zone.
What's with these guys?
With noted newspaper columnist and radio host, Graham Couch.
I can't spin this one. I can spin anything. Javi Baez, if he's in the lineup, that's not good. And here's the problem. Because every time he strikes out in a key moment, and you end up losing that game, that's a game you could have won and might have won, and you're going to wonder about that later on. You can't give away games. Your over-under is 83.5. You're hoping to win the division. You're hoping to be back in the playoffs. You do not have the margin for error to give away games. And if Baez is playing, who knows if you would have won the game anyway, because, baseball's a sport where even the best players get out like 65, 70% of the time. But you're always going to wonder. And he cannot be there. I think they're just giving lip service. They're paying him right now.
Well, what's up with this headline, though?
Is that what the headline said?
That's what he just said. Like the Detroit News headline says, Baez's arrival sends a jolt of energy and hope through the Tigers. Like, I understand if you're just trying to be positive, but you do realize what your readership is, and who wants to hear that, right?
And
where's the Matt C's kind of like the columnist guy?
Hold on,
just sitting there and firing out.
Give me some Hoff. Let me find this fucking headline. What the hell? There's more shit about Mayada being good. Jesus, this is all.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Yeah, where is this one on?
We believe it.
On Baez. Yeah, I don't even see it. Is he sure it's a Detroit News headline? It must be. It must have been a little while ago.
But where are the old school guy? It was like Joe Falls. Was he a guy that would just kind of be like rip on? I'm not saying every column needs to be about ripping Baez, but like
you don't want Joe Falls in this sense. Like those guys in the old days, they wouldn't go to press conferences because their whole thing was I don't care what they think.
Well, that's not great. But I'd also would like to read,
right. No,
I don't want to read Javi Baez's arrival sends a jolt of energy and hope through Tigers camp. Like that's not. I mean,
they've obviously written.
He's a great locker room guy.
There's been like 40 headlines since then because they buried it.
Delete it.
Hold on. Detroit News. I gotta find this. So good tonight. Oh my God! It's February 15th. Yeah, it's been a minute, but. Arrival of Javi Baez sends jolt of energy and hope through Tigers camp. All right, here we go. It's far too early to draw any conclusions or, frankly, make any assumptions about what this all might look like in 6 weeks. Thank you, Chris McCoskey.
Oh, this is McCoskey?
Yeah, but on a sunny Saturday on the backfields at Tiger Town, it sure was good to see Javi Baez with a smile on his face. Breeze and fuck me. I'm sorry. And I like McCoskey. Like McCoskey, when we were growing up, McCoskey was my guy in the Pistons. Like he was my go-to guy.
But what happened then?
He always wanted.
I'm so happy to see Javi Baez smiling, dude.
That's not.
You know what I mean? Like
that's not what you say. Yeah,
I don't know why I'm getting hate mail. And I get these emails. The guy tells me to go fuck myself. I just don't know why. Oh, that smile on Javi Baez as he's booting another one at fucking shorts. These guys. Captain Sparty, what does MSU need to show the rest of the Big Ten season to give you confidence they can make a Final Four, and will they show it?
I think they've done enough to show me they can make a Final Four. But to me, it really comes down. Akins would be the big thing, right? Can he break out of a shooting slump because he's going to be on the court enough, right? So he is tied to all their shooting. Can they shoot it well enough, and can they get going where it repeatedly isn't an issue, and he's feeling better about himself? I think the other components are there.
Jeffrey Mulder, take. To the victors go the spoils. Another team drops some games, and MSU keeps winning. Jase and Trey are working their way onto the all Big Ten teams. And baked, some struggles offensively, but Jaden Akins deserves to be all defense, and Jase should be freshman of the year based on impact.
The freshman of the year one is going to be interesting because you have 3 guys who are going to be top 5 picks in the Big Ten this year, and yet none of them are going to. I mean, if Illinois loses to Iowa, they might miss the NCAA tournament entirely, and Rutgers is going to miss the tournament. So all those guys didn't impact winning. Now, you can argue that's the roster put around them, and it's not all their fault. They're obviously huge talents. But Jase did. And so it gets really interesting on how you judge these guys because this isn't about who's the best NBA prospect. And, Jase is considered an NBA prospect, obviously. But this is about being Big Ten freshman of the year. And if you wind up being the go-to guy down the stretch on the team that wins the Big Ten, that's a pretty good case.
Nate Rhodes, MSU is better offensively when Akins is not on the floor.
There are times where that's true. He's going to be on the floor, though, and it's times when it's not true because he does get to the hole. He's been really good late in games offensively, attacking, and he's been great defensively, which leads to MSU's offense in transition. And so that it's, if you told me right now you've got to get a bucket over the next, so I don't want to say the one possession thing, but say it's there's 3 minutes to go and it's a tie game and you've got to run with the same 5 guys on the floor. I want Akins on the floor, and I would right now I would go with Holloman, Richardson, and Akins, those 3. And so I don't know that that's entirely true, but it's fair to question it because he isn't shooting that well.
Mr. Neurotic Pants next. Number 1, MSU hockey is a different team than they were earlier in the season. It's proof that skating and drugs don't mix. Joking mostly. 2, if Izzo makes it to the Final Four, he'll retire to Iron Mountain, where he'll attend every high school game possible, offering unsolicited advice while abusing refs.
I think he's 10 years away from that, but if he lives that long. But I can see that for retirement for him. Just the old guy at the Iron Mountain games. That's Izzo. Don't worry about him. That's what he does these days.
Kurt Wisniewski, number 1 on Friday. Ward Manuel and Michigan. Mel Tuckered, Dusty May. 2, the Tigers will win the AL Central this year, 92-70, and 5 games ahead of the Indians. Excuse me, the Guardians. Sorry, Couch left this in. And the cherry on top, Vladdy Guerrero will be a trade deadline acquisition.
Boy, if they go 92-70, this can be a fun summer. We can dream of that. That would be incredible. Are you on the over?
Are we winning games 2-1 or what?
It's 83.
I want to be.
Yeah, I put some on the over just to have some fun. Because you're not going to put it on the under because that sucks. And then I just want to have.
I never got a right-handed at bat though. Like I know. I trust the pitching staff. I think, but
I try to treat it like money that's already gone, and like if it happens, it happens. And I want to keep myself from betting individual games. So if I have something on the end of the season,
well, if you're doing futures, you kind of have to bet that way, especially at the beginning of a season.
Yeah,
right. You just act like it doesn't exist. And
yep.
Eric Larson, MSU's depth is breaking teams at the end of games now that we are deeper into the season. It's not only physical, but mentally fatiguing on these teams. Exhibited by Michigan and Indiana, not even trying to foul to extend the game late. Just gave up. And from Austin Wolf, you are starting to see lack of depth matter across the Big Ten. More consistent play for Akins and Kohler, and this MSU team takes us further than we think.
Yeah, I mean that is an interesting point from Eric there too on the idea that you thought maybe a team could have extended it, and if you're late in the game you're trying to get one more possession and it's kind of okay accepting what is. I don't know how much that is about mental fatigue, but there's something there. This will be an interesting game on Wednesday at Maryland for that reason. Like Maryland is, again, they're coming off plenty of rest. They've got 5 really good players. They're at home. But they don't play a lot of other guys. They play 5 guys more than Michigan State plays any one single guy. And so what does that look like in the end? And this will be sort of a test of that depth versus just talent. And it's not always going to work. And my hunch, the same way it was they were a good matchup with Michigan, even though I picked Michigan to win because I'm a jackass. No, it's just I don't know. But my hunch is that Maryland wins this game despite that.
You had it right, though. You're a jackass. Chris K., Michigan State is an efficient Jaden Akins away from being a serious Final Four contender.
Yeah. I mean, a lot, can Akins take that step? And really, it would be, how he's remembered. If he could have a decent next month, it would, I think people are turning on and starting to appreciate some of the other things he does. And now that there is another guy who's producing, and it's not like, without Akins, they just don't have that go-to guy. There's a little less venom toward him. I think if he could have that, if he could have a month, it would go a long way, and it would go a long way towards how he's remembered.
Witty username. Hot take. In a generation, sports in general will be a niche pastime due to limited accessibility of consuming. Monthly streaming fees versus every game on broadcast TV like olden days, and the financial hurdles of kids participating in learning games. And Graham will have to cover politics or something. Big take. We need public shaming of the horrible takes during the California trip.
So we're talking on this show, like we take all the worst trips of the UCLA, and USC games and just put them out there. The problem is some of those takes were decent of what happened in the moment. The thing that, and I always say is really important to have takes about what happened in the moment. and not take a moment and make an overarching take about what is. That's the big challenge. Can you react to the moment and not take the moment and overreact to who somebody is long term? Because those things change all the time, especially in college basketball with guys who are sometimes good but flawed players.
Ryan Schultz, Lions should make a compilation video of players in their homes saying "fuck the Bears."
I would enjoy this. I mean, I don't know the Lions would ever do that because it's not, great language for the family friendly stuff. But
like Graham likes to promote,
Yeah, but
Graham's a family friendly guy.
It would go a long way towards one of their great fans and presences on Twitter, and everybody did a lot of. Did you see it was? Was it the Lions, Michigan State, Red Wings, Pistons, and I might be missing somebody else. Maybe the Tigers also had Fatter Day to honor Andy on their big screens over the weekend.
Some dude, number one, looks like Dusty May got the same type of indoctrination to this rivalry that Jonathan Smith did the hard way. 2, MSU is not the only team subject to a February swoon. I would say almost every team is. Wisconsin and Michigan are swooning now. MSU will get the Big Ten outright. Swooning. 3, I'd say MSU took Michigan's best shot on the road and stuffed it straight up their ass. Is that a worthy assessment?
I'm curious to see what Michigan looks like at Breslin. I think Michigan State probably wins that game. I like the matchup. And I'm curious to see Michigan's response too. When you have a demoralizing loss like that, how do you respond in Nebraska? Like, this is a really telling game. They still have some tough games left. And it's pretty much a pick 'em in Vegas too. I mean, this will be if you're Michigan and you're gonna. I mean, this is the type of game Michigan State has won this year, going on the road, and obviously they thumped Nebraska at home. They didn't have to play at Nebraska this year, but this is and they went on the road early in Northwestern before Northwestern fell apart, and those sort of games where they were just really good and disciplined and motivated. And we'll see what Michigan looks like.
Jojo, lukewarm. Indiana was a year too late for Dusty May. The fact that they've hit more on football hires than basketball ones in the last 15 years is baffling and baked. Izzo means more to me and most alums and fans than nearly all of my extended family. People need to chill out.
Well, you said that about Cohen Carr on Twitter the other day.
I love Cohen Carr. I can say that about Tom Izzo. I love Tom Izzo than most of my family.
Yeah.
I wish he was my real father. That'd be awesome.
Oh,
even if he was my real father, like, I'd still bust his balls, but like, hey, Tom, like, what the hell, man?
You're washed.
No, but I'm just, what's up with the zone? We can't figure his zone out. You're still shocked by that, and then I would love him the next day.
I would love to see
just how it goes on.
That dinner conversation.
Dude, Izzo and I would have a blast. What are you talking about?
You would, yeah.
Logan Tedford next. I had a feeling MSU would win due to Michigan not having any Michigan players, so they didn't have the hate like MSU does. Same thing happened in college football last season. MSU had very few Michigan players and a coach who didn't understand the hate.
No, there are some parallels. I think, football is a little different deal, but like I think Michigan State's 16-8 start, and obviously Michigan, found their footing pretty quickly there. So I don't know if what happened from then on had anything to do with it, but I think that start had something to do with that game being a little different. I think Dusty May alluded to that, and it is, it's one of the challenges in the transfer portal era when you change rosters over. Guys who have that feel and that understanding. I mean, think of MSU as doing that too. Think if you had like 2 brand new rosters playing each other in something that was supposed to be a rivalry with a bunch of out-of-state guys. Like, you're going to have those. You may get to an age where like Purdue and Indiana are like, I guess this is big. Our fans care,
DMB. MSU's ability to overwhelm elite offensive players is something that could set them apart. Smith and Wolf look like completely different players against the Spartans. And been very critical of Akins, but he's earning his minutes. Those open looks got to fall at some point.
Yeah, no, he's been very good in a lot of ways. If you just watch Jaden Akins on the defensive end, and even on the offensive end, but if you just watch him on the defensive end, you'll come away thinking, I want that guy on the floor.
Suburban Spartan Dad. Jaden Akins puts MSU on his back against Wisconsin this weekend. Puts Tanji in a torture chamber and puts up 20+. Locks in his signature senior moment. He's due.
He is definitely due. That is something everybody can agree on.
Steve. Number one, the Michigan Roy Rogers Kitty Cowboy hats were more appropriate for a Les Mis opening versus basketball game. And 2, the Troy Weaver Piston draft picks may turn out to have been quite good. Cunningham, Ivy, Duran, Thompson, and Stewart.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Troy Weaver understood how to identify talent. That's why he got the job. That's what he was. I mean, he was great at that. He's been great at that. It was a roster assembling. He didn't understand that those guys couldn't grow if you didn't put the right veterans around them to nurture them. And he missed on some, but overall he did better than a lot of people do in terms of identification of high end talent and guys who are going to become NBA guys. He just didn't build a roster, and that is the other part of being a GM. He's a great. Some guys are great lieutenants. He's a great guy to have in your front office because he's good at identifying talent.
Couch on fire. Hockey really crapped the bed this weekend, but still steal the championship if they can sweep last place Notre Dame. They're rooting for Penn State now. Ugh. And bonus. Jeremy Fear's brother is balling out in Oklahoma, my other alma mater. I have a fears on both teams.
It will be interesting who Jeremiah Fears does after this year. Will he truly leave? Will he go to the NBA? Will he transfer? I don't think people brought up the idea that he'll come to MSU. It doesn't make any sense to me. Like he is a guard who wants the ball in his hands, and like his dad, they're not going to they're not going to take the ball out of Jeremy's hands by bringing Jeremiah here. Something, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make a lot of sense. It would only hinder his other son. I don't think that would be the case.
Scott, you next. Behind Izzo and his process to develop young guys, with Booker last year was because he wasn't ready. With Jase, it seems he wanted to ease him in, and now in his time, he is ready. Izzo knows what he is doing, and players put in effort and reap the rewards. Bonus, Auburn, Duke, Houston, the three teams I don't want to see until at least the Elite Eight. Maybe add Florida as well.
Houston's one of those teams that they're always tough Houston would be one of those teams that would test Michigan State's toughness. I don't know from a talent standpoint if they couldn't have that would be a really interesting game. There are lots of teams. You start getting to the top tier teams, Michigan State's going to have to beat good teams. They're going to have to beat teams that they aren't better than from a talent perspective, but that they're capable of beating. And but that's every title run. That's every Final Four run. You have to get going. You have to, that's why these things don't happen easily. That's why Gene Katie never got there, despite having great teams. That's why it took Matt Painter until last year. It's why Indiana struggled so hard. It's why what Tom Izzo has done over time is so incredible. It's just really hard to do.
David Cox next. Can we be done with the praise on LeBraden Smith? He's a turnover machine and awful on D. Trey and Jase are excellent at both. Jase should be Big Ten Player of the Year. Get real, folks.
I don't know if Braden Smith's going to win it anymore. I mean, he's first of all, Purdue does not have the depth. I mean, they're the opposite of Michigan State, and he is wearing down. And I think teams it'll be interesting to see if they can find it a little bit. I don't know. At this point, they've had enough of a losing streak, and he's struggled in some big games. I don't know that he wins it. He's still. I mean, you'd still love to have him as your point guard. I mean, Michigan State would love to have Braden. If you put Braden Smith on Michigan State, they get better, right? So I don't think that's. And he would just have a lot more to work with at MSU.
Richard Kane, Muck Fishigan. That is all.
Thank you, Richard.
Hans Jurgen, number one, the only thing better than beating Go Blow is betting against Graham's gambling advice and winning. 2, Richardson, Fears, and Holloman are basketball's greatest trio of guards since the microwave, Isaiah and Dumars. And 3, yeah, maybe I'm a sore old crank, but when Holloman was hitting those threes, Chuck Daly would have kept him shooting until he missed twice. Run the same play over and over until they stop it. And bonus. Wild shots, sloppy play, load management, too many blowouts, excessive stoppages and reviews. No wonder NBA viewership is down 50%. It's time for a rival professional basketball league. How about fewer games? How about shorter games? How about only 30-second timeouts? Less is more.
So here's the thing about the NBA. I think the NBA in the postseason is still fantastic. I wouldn't change a damn thing. Then all those 7-game series, the length of the thing, everything about it's great. I do think the threes are too many. It would be, and I don't know if that'll come around and change it all. I don't know if you would put a limit on three. I don't know. Would you put you can't shoot more than 25 threes a game or something? I don't know if you want to do that.
How do you do that?
I don't. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean,
what if you use them all and you're at the end of the game and you need a 3? I mean,
the thing you could do is you could make it worth 2 points beyond the arc because that's only where they shoot.
I got an idea. How about the guys play basketball?
Well,
they actually show up and play basketball.
It's what the Pistons are doing, and they're winning. It's what the Knicks are doing, and a lot of teams actually are.
These guys are missing 60 games a year.
Yeah, it's just very few.
Insane. Upper Deck Jerk Guy to wrap us up here. You need to go to 5 quick takes. And bonus, we will never hear about the truly perfect crime.
This is not. We're not talking about the the crime that Dominic. We're just talking about a random
Which
crime.
one?
It could be anyone.
There's so many on this show.
Yeah.
The fear shooter, you killing a gay guy. I mean, there's
You stealing mail.
me stealing mail, apparently.
It's a story you apparently didn't tell. Presented by Midtown Brewing Company. Which
I need to know where this comes from. I'm trying to rack my brain because I'm just like, did I? I'm like, because I know I would. There's no way I do federal. That's crazy.
So for the record, for anybody who's listening, sponsors included, I have never killed anybody. That is, he has never stolen mail. And there,
I know.
Yeah, I mean, Jason's committed some crimes, but those were a while ago. And,
Right.
yeah, that's. Anyway, we appreciate all of you for producing our show. You guys are fantastic. We appreciate, of course, Pure Options. Go to pureoptions.com, and if you're still listening, Lord knows, I hope you've got 20, 40, maybe even the 100 mgs in you, so the Graham Couch hologram shows up. Go to pureoptions.com, and thanks to muskox. Look, it is muskox weather. This is muskox season. Go muskox.com. Use the promo code FIXITINPOST for $15 off your muskox purchase. Midtown Brewing Company, Tuesday night trivia, any night after work, any day for lunch. We'll be back Friday. I'm going to be on the road all week covering Maryland, Michigan State basketball. So Twitter questions on Friday. We'll talk to you then. Good show, man.
Yeah, man.
Couch in the Room.